It's time to give out some season grades on our beloved Philadelphia Phillies because the reality is they're not playing baseball again until Clearwater. We're going to give out some grades starting today and talk about the Championship League Series next here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. Welcome in, everyone. Happy Friday to all. This is the PHLY Phillies podcast presented by Ace Hardware Home Services. It's not the postseason anymore. It's post-season. And Ace Hardware Home Services is bringing the helpful hardware place right to your front door. So check them out online at acehardwarehomeservices.com. Renee Washington, Tyler Zulli here. We're going to talk about the ALCS and the NLCS and the superpowers of the Dodgers right now in deflating the Mets balloon and all that. Plus, MLB popularity rise, some really cool statistical stuff from the games. But Renee, it begins. We did this last year. The grades. We're going to get into the grades of the year. It feels to me like that's the final chapter of the Phillies 2024 season. We get to grade, we get to look at the future a little bit, and we get to digest for the last time what the Phillies did on the baseball field this year. Sad. And it feels like just yesterday we were giving grades after losing in the NLCS. And this is like the bow. Isn't it? Yeah, this is like putting the bow tie on the 2024 season and like officially like closing the door on this chapter with our grades before we start looking ahead to the off season. I remember like this was the transition into like winter meetings and hot stove and everything else. And it's just sad that we're here already. Did not expect us to be giving out grades this soon, which is why some of my grades are
the Ice Queen's coming out
going down. I will say, and I would like to make this disclaimer before we get into grades today.
Ooh, a disclaimer. That
you know how there's a curve that everybody gets? The bell curve? The bell curve in grades that helps everybody's grades get higher.
I always liked that as a underperformer.
No, I hated that.
Well, you were an overperformer.
Yeah,
so you helped me out. So thank you to the Renees of the world for overperforming and bringing my grade up. I appreciated that.
Well, in this classroom, the curve goes the other direction as well. And we're curving down because when you have an overall bad second half and postseason, everybody's grade is dropping. So we're not swinging up things in a positive direction.
And happy Friday to Steve and Frank in the chat. We made it, guys. Yesterday, my wife was like, you want to open some wine? And I said, oh, it's Thursday. Yesterday felt like a Wednesday to me.
Okay.
So it felt like the week went really fast. So we had
some good surprise.
We had 2-3 wines last night.
Look at you.
Yeah, watched a little
Bad
Monkey. Yeah.
2-3? Is that your Midwestern coming out?
2-3 wines.
Little 2-3 beers?
I like that for you. I feel like the only
and then
thing,
I was like, it's Friday.
The only thing that does change drastically for us is we are 11 a.m. every single day, which means we're done early every single day, which is not a good thing because there's baseball games going on right now, and I'd rather be talking about pre- and post-game shows. But it does allow you to have a chance to crack open some wine a little bit earlier, be home.
It's wine season now.
It is wine. Oh, it's always wine season.
Well, yeah, but I drink more Miller Lights in the summer.
That's fair.
I'm a big rosé drinker in the summer.
Oh,
but now
classy.
I get into the hot reds.
I love a nice,
I want to carry
cold...
around one of those like Spanish wine bags. You ever see those?
Don't.
Like
No,
the Mountain Men?
No, you do not.
Like leather. No, but I want to. I just want to like wear it around the house like a little side travel wine bag.
They do make some great wine bags, by the way.
Just, like,
they've got some great wine bags that have the little thing on the...
like a conquistador and just drink some hot red right there with playing time with the girls. No? You guys don't have these thoughts?
No. I still put wine in my mugs. I don't put coffee in my mugs. I'll put a nice
wine in my mug. But summertime is like the cold drinks, the summery drinks, pina coladas.
Now it's time for hot reds.
And mojitos and things. Now it is definitely wine season. I did see in the chat, I think it was Frank or Steve that said that the chat should be giving us grades as the host of the show. And I'm curious. And I actually think I'd love to know what they'd give us.
Roast me away, Frank.
Yeah, give us some grades. Let us know what you think. I mean, end of season, we're holding everybody accountable, ourselves included. I wouldn't mind that, but yeah,
See,
there's a lot.
That's the problem, though, Renee. You know how you just mentioned that your bell curve, your grade curve bends down. They're gonna be like, yeah, we love Jamie and Renee, but this Tyler clown.
Yeah, who would mess up the curve in the trio?
All right, well, let's get into the grades. If we're willing to give grades, I guess we got to be willing to take it. So if you want to roast us, go for it. But let's get started. We kind of broke this up into 5 or 6 guys a day, depending on the day. And we're kind of going infield, I believe outfield, starting pitching, bullpen, something in that order. But today we're going to get it started here with the face of the franchise. And we're going to kind of
jumping right in.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to tease them. I mean, it's kind of the right side of the infield-ish. Rafael Marchan's in the mix. Utility man Kody Clemens is in here. Edmundo, Sosa, Bryson, Stott, and Bryce Harper. Let's just start off the top because, we got to hook the people in with some Bryce Harper talk. Bryce Harper will start us off here on the grading, and then we'll get to the rest. I personally, for Bryce Harper, I'll start. Renee, and then Tyler, you guys follow suit here. I'm giving him an A. The only reason it's not an A+ is because his A+ level is slightly better than this. It was the longest, I believe, home run drought of his career this year. Kind of the only negative. He was hurt during the time, but look, he's a Gold Glove finalist at a new position. That counts for a lot. He played through some banged up times and some injuries. That counts a lot. His 285 batting average was very good. His on base, looking back on it, was probably slightly better than I had in my mind at 373. That's an excellent on base for a power hitter like that. Gold Glove, injury, yada, 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 leader. Only reason it's not an A+ is because his A+ is very much on the table for him to still go get. And I think that home run drought cost him a little bit there. And just overall, an A. I have no complaints about Bryce Harper. Professor Washington's got that look in her eye, Tyler.
PSU Iverson is saying for grades, Wheeler gets an A+, Schwartz gets an A, everybody else is an F. Frank is saying Harper is a B, and I'm actually going to go with Frank on my grade as well.
Wow,
I actually gave Bryce Harper a B. This is where I'm starting my grades at. Yes.
This
so
is
here,
tough.
I actually created, I am
and
a
Frank
professor.
are tough graders.
I am a professor these days, so I wanted to really put on my professor hats a lot more seriously. I had a whole criteria, and it was postseason performance was like 40%, 20% was regular season. I got to find my rubric. Here it is. Progress from 2023 was weighed into this. Like, did you improve from last season? That was 20%.
Compared to the year prior, yeah.
Adjustments in season, 20%. Regular season as a whole,
20% in season.
20%, and 40% for the playoffs, because obviously to me, the playoffs are the most important.
So
and
where
if
does he come out to a B?
Because
postseason, he was one of your best.
Nobody was great in the postseason.
But Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos were the
nobody
best.
outside of the starting pitching is getting good grades for the postseason. I don't like Bryce Harper's postseason performance. Was it better than the others? Yes. Was it good enough? No. And it's also weighted based on who they are. Bryce Harper has a higher bar and expectation. Postseason for Bryce Harper, in his 4 at-bats, he had 1 hit. He had 1 run. He was batting a 250, 400 OBP, 250 slugging, 650 OPS. Was he better than everybody else? Has he got a hit? Sure. Was that great? No. Overall, this season, as you mentioned, did have that home run drought, but was still good, was still productive, gave you good at bats.
He stole game 2 for me. Almost, you could have gotten swept if it's not for Bryce Harper. Anyway, continue.
Which is why I gave him something,
B.
and he didn't fail.
Tough grades.
He's a B. Bryce Harper, B, because when you look, I'm sorry, I just read Sosa's numbers for postseason. My bad. I was wondering why that didn't make sense.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I got a lot of B's and bad grades here. Let me go back to Bryce Harper. A lot of red ink on this paper. Let me rewind. For Bryce Harper, looking at his postseason numbers, I knew those numbers didn't make sense. In his 12 at-bats, Bryce Harper gave you 3 runs, 4 hits. His splits were a 333, 529, 750 with a 1.279 OPS. Bryce Harper was one of the pieces of this offense that showed up for some of the 4 games. Did not show up for enough. Now, when you look at his regular season stats, Bryce Harper did finish 11th across the league in extra base hits. He was top 10 in hits, 12th in slugging, 10th in OPS, OBP, was 7th in doubles, was 11th in walks.
Sounds
he
like
did
an A
have
to
a
me.
lot of. We're getting there.
Hey, we're
He did have-
contemporaries here. We can help each other's grades.
He did have, when you look at his plate discipline and his approach, he was consistent. I'm not grading him on the fact that he just had a home run drought. I'm also going to say that for Bryce Harper, despite all the history and the great season that he had in the first half of the season, I just expected more from him. And I feel like he's a guy that when you look at after the London series and the frustrations, he had opportunities throughout the course of his season, even with 42 doubles, 30 home runs, 76 walks. He had opportunities to really lead this team and step up. And even with the drought, I would have liked to see more from him. And I think that he was so much in his own head that when the team needed him at times most, Bryce Harper was unable to help be that leader that they needed. So it's more to me about Bryce Harper's inability in big moments to lead. You are the face of this team. Playoffs, struggling to win. I think that we needed more from Bryce Harper.
All right, Professor Zulli. We got an A from me, a B from Renee. Where are you on the Bryce Harper grading scale?
Yeah, it's an A- for me. I thought it was a pretty productive year. I mean, we've laid out pretty significantly the power gap or the sap and power over the late portions of July and August. However, he was a back-to-back player of the month, the National League Player of the Month in May and June. He hit 30 home runs for the 3rd time in his Phillies career. His 42 doubles were tied for the most over the course of his Phillies career. He had 72 extra base hits. He still picked up 87 RBIs, despite the fact that he did miss a little bit of time throughout the season, and the power really sapped pretty significantly again in the later stages of July. July, he hit 149 and slugged just 358. Yeah. The fact that he slugged 358 in the month of July and still finished with a .525 slugging percentage, which was the 3rd best of his Phillies tenure, is pretty impressive to me. It's the 5th consecutive year that he's gone for 145 plus OPS plus. He was a 149 OPS plus. Those that don't know, OPS plus is the weighted scale is 100 is baseline. So he's basically 49% better than the average baseball player this year. He's 149 this year. He was 145 last year. His MVP year, he was 179. So it's 5 consecutive years of 145 OPS or better. He had almost 300 total bases this year, which would be the the 2nd most in his time as a Philly, despite the fact that he had only 2 home runs in the back portion of July and into the early portions of August. He still reached the 30 plateau. I think that without that, he probably is pushing 40 and 100, and you're talking about an MVP caliber type season. Now, Shohei Ohtani would have won it no matter if he was 40 or 30, 35, 40. That's just how good Ohtani's been this year. But Bryce Harper's season as a whole was wildly productive across the board. The OBP, Jamie, as you mentioned, 373 was down from last year, still pretty good. The slugging was better than last year's slugging. More home runs, more RBI, more doubles, more extra base hits. The walk numbers were practically the same. Now, I know he played 15 more games this year than he did last year, but the walk numbers were practically the same. I think across the board, this was a very productive year for Bryce Harper. I go A-.
Well, we have some grades in the chat. I want to share
what do we got?
Some comments that we have in the chat that are going along with these as well.
Frank Barber's grades were just vibes, he said.
Frank is going just all
Which
vibes.
I love.
And he did say
Just
that.
shoot it.
Yeah. Hey, you have your own criteria, whatever works for you.
You have a gut, and then, right? Like
Frank Barber was saying
when I go into a grade, I have like something in my mind, and then I dive into the stats.
Right.
And then I look and compare and kind of like take it from there.
Yeah, because it is hard for
That's why I write
bias.
down just gut grade, and then I go and then I tweak.
Yeah. So Frank was a B like myself. Steven Garrison was saying how he should have, what he could have been and should have been if he didn't get hurt. But with Bryce, when you go back to when he got hurt with his shoulder. Also, I know PSU Iverson is saying all these stats legit and great, but you have to grade Harper relative to expectation and his peers. He didn't perform to expectations. This is why I gave him a B, PSU Iverson. And you're also mentioning you can't give him an A when he disappeared in August, September, and October.
Well, I mean,
yeah. So
I don't know about October there.
Nobody showed up.
He
in
was
October.
the best Philly offensively.
That's saying nothing.
He won them a game.
This is like you have everybody else who was over in October, and because Bryce did
Bryce
give
and
them
Nick are the only ones
home
that
run,
get an offensive pass.
which
Everybody
is why
else
he's
roast
a B
away.
and not a B- for me. But the bar is not there. As we're watching all the other series going on right now, the Max Muncies of the world, the bar is not that low. And for Bryce Harper to be the best of the worst offensively is not enough. So,
by the way, if
interesting
we're talking about disappearing in September and you're going to give me 29 hits and 92 at-bats and hit 315 / 315, 394, 550, 543 with a 937 OPS, sign me up for disappearing all the time. That was was he great in October? No, nobody was. But he was tremendous in September after a decent August. I know the power again wasn't there, but almost 300 average in August too. July was really the only bad month for him in this, and of course, nobody was good in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think statistically, when you look at month to month, of course, as you mentioned, having back-to-back NL honors, the slump in July, the home run drought, the eye test statistically shows that he wasn't as bad as we thought he was statistically. But I know in the chat it was brought up like some of his, like the game 3 strikeout. To me, it's more about in those moments. How do you step up in those individual moments when you have a chance? You're the face of the franchise. You're the face of this team. You're the expected guy to help them when they're struggling. And so for me, it's more than just the stats. It's when you look at the meaningful moments in games, what did Bryce Harper do? But let's move on to the next guy because we've got a lot of grading left to do.
Yeah, you want to tell us about a friend before we dive into more of these grades?
Nah.
But
I will. Let me tell you guys a little bit about some of our friends. Let's handle some business. And let's talk to you about today our friends over at HelloFresh, because you want to make sure at every time of your life you are taking care of yourselves, you're eating right, you're prepared for how you're going to eat with some good quality meals. And with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients, seasonal recipes that are delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip the trips to the grocery store, and you can always count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. With HelloFresh, you get to make sure that this fall is the tastiest season yet. With their recipes that HelloFresh provides you that are delivered right to your door, they give you some restaurant-style meals. They give you meals that in your own kitchen are going to have the quality taste without the high price tag of takeout or anything else. Plus, it's less time. So you don't have to worry about what you're going to eat for dinner, what am I going to have for lunch. With HelloFresh, they simplify that for you. They have tons of options for whatever you're craving, and you can choose from an ever-changing menu of over 50 recipes every week. Take your pick. You've got over 100 market add-on items like desserts, which I love, breakfast, and snacks, in addition to their wholesome meals. They've got quick and easy, different options for you, such as vegetarian, and preferences that fit whatever your lifestyle calls for. So from their hearty dinners to their game day snacks, make sure to check out HelloFresh. You can get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com when you use code free Phillies applied across 7 boxes. So again, you get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free Phillies applied across 7 boxes, new subscribers only, and that does vary by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/free Phillies. It's definitely great for you guys to be able to take advantage and enjoy America's #1 meal kit.
And Saturday, we got something cool going on in the Philadelphia area, and that's the National Thoroughbred League. If you're a fan of the ponies, as they say, well, you can get out and see some of these big thoroughbreds. This Saturday, October 19th, the National Thoroughbred League owns the day at Parks Racing with a lineup of 5 NTL races and Philadelphia's biggest day of races outside of the Pennsylvania Derby. The NTL Philadelphia Cup is hosted by this guy. You may have heard of him. His name is Dr. J. Yeah, Julius Irving, the Philadelphia Stallions co-owner, will be there along with meet and greets with dozens of Philadelphia sports legends, including Dr. J, of course, and Brian Westbrook, good friend. B. West was out there. He's a huge horseman. Seth Joyner, Fred X, plus many more. And ahead of the Giants game this weekend, Otis Anderson, Howard Cross, and the great Beasley Reese will all be there to make it interesting the day before the big game. They got a private beer garden, a music stage, best in Philly food offerings, fan fashion show, and of course, the most exciting day of racing anywhere.
There's 10 NTL teams, from the Stallions to the New York Knights to the California Shamrocks. They face off in 5 consecutive races with 3 hours of high stakes, building excitement, and cheering sections leading up to the big finale. There's nothing like it in horse racing or sports today. Doors open at noon, races start at 2:30, and we're partnering with the NTL to give diehards exclusive access to this event. Just show your email subscription at the gate for free admission. For more information, visit ntlracing.com. All right, real quick before we move on to Bryson Stott, who is next to be graded, just a couple comments in the chat, kind of saying that at bat in Game 4 was the series where Bryce, comes up with 2 guys, walked right ahead of him and kind of, I don't want to say I think it was a 3-pitch at bat, strikeout. Yes, that was a terrible at bat, a terrible time for it, and all of that. But up until about 2 games ago, if you looked at Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge, you'd be like, oh man, these guys are having bad postseasons. And what did they do? Their teammates picked them up until Ohtani and Judge could kick into superhuman mode. So this is a season grade. While yes, that it was a terrible at bat and perhaps the biggest moment of the season, I can't weight that too heavily against Bryce Harper. Like that's not going to impact like a total grade. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents into the ring.
One at bat does not drastically change the entire grade, but let's not forget it was the whole second half of the season that was a struggle for the Phillies as a team, Bryce Harper included.
Sure.
And July was definitely a big part of that. We did talk about how August got better, September definitely got better, but when in reality we look at this team, it was only one half, not even. It was the first few months of the season that they actually were playing great baseball. Outside of that stretch, it was not a good season. The second half of the season and the postseason were not good.
I mean, you won the NL East.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like outside of that, they won the NL East because of the work they did prior to June.
First time in 13 years.
Going 5. Okay, I'm not saying it was a bad season before I get
there's a lot of
misunderstood.
negativity in the air with the Phillies in general. I mean, the comment
Phillies were
section
great
is kind
for
of
the first half of the season.
The comments are more with you than they are with me.
If you break down the season, first half was great, fantastic, and it's because of the first half numbers, because of the first half success that they were able to hold on to the NL East lead. Because of that, they had a nice cushion. Their stats even were a lot better when you weigh in the whole season numbers. But the second half of the season, postseason sucked. Postseason sucked. Second half of the season was bad. I won't say it sucked.
All right, so let's get to Bryson Stott. Bryce Harper's right side of the infield mate, his former roommate, his UNLV Nevada brethren. So let's get to Bryson Stott. I'll kick it off. We'll follow in order again. Bryson Stott, I'm giving a C. I think it was a fairly big regression for Bryson Stott. There's his numbers up from Tyler. 148 games played, 245, 315, 356. OPS plus was only an 89. Not great. 11 home runs, 57 RBIs, 31 extra base hits, 32 stolen bases, which is great. And, of course, an NL Gold Glove finalist. Now, I'm a C because the Gold Glove finalist, I expect Bryson Stott to be kind of year in and year out. I think he's proven he's that excellent of a fielder. So that stayed the same, more or less, and I just kind of expect that for him. Batting average and on base weren't massive drop-offs, but his OPS and slugging were massive drop-offs. His K rate actually went down, but he ended up on the year with 40 less hits than the year prior. Now, this is probably more his baseline than maybe I thought it was going into this year. I thought what you saw last year, 2-strike hits, understanding of the strike zone, just quality at bat after quality at bat. I thought, maybe this is what we're going to get. This season told me, hopefully it's somewhere in the middle, but I fear this could be more his offensive baseline than what we saw last year. So for that reason, with the preseason hype I had for him and how critical he is to this lineup, because you could put, when he's on, like he could possibly be a 2-hole hitter for you. He's probably like a perfect 6-hole hitter.
Yeah.
What you saw from him this year was kind of like, all right, like he's kind of like your 7-hole hitter. So I think he had a big step back. Still very optimistic about his future. Still love what he brings you in the field. But for that regression offensively, I'm going to drop him down to a C this year.
Okay, well now you're a little bit closer to where I am.
Trevor Rice agrees with my C grade as well. All right.
Okay.
Professor Ice Queen, what do you got?
Well, with another Gold Glove finalist, the expectation is a little bit higher with Bryson Stott. At 27 years old, we've been seeing and following, what the last 2 seasons looked like for him, how he progressed into this season. I know you touched on some of the numbers. The ones to me that gave him his grade were the fact that in those 160 at-bats that had a fastball of 93 miles per hour or harder for him to hit 200 this season, where last season he hit 319 in that sample size. And then also for his batting average to drop from last season, which was a 280 to a 245 this season. He did take a step back offensively, although he was solid defensively. And there were some great plays that I can think of that he made at second base, his fielding, which is what led him to be a Gold Glove finalist alongside Bryson, Zach, and Marsh. He was also 13th in stolen bases across Major League Baseball for the regular season. So did a lot of little things, but we've been keeping an eye on how Bryson Stott's going to progress. He's one of those young talents in the daycare that you're hoping can take that next step to be a bigger contributor offensively. And I think defensively, he did exactly what was expected. But offensively, for his numbers for the season, as you read those stats of what his splits are, you look at the postseason specifically, his batting average at a 182 in the postseason with a 308, 364, 671 OPS for his splits, and gave you 2 hits in his 11 at-bats. I give Bryson Stott a C-. I thought because of his defensive side, his stolen bags, that actually helped raise his grade because I didn't realize, and I felt like he had taken strides offensively, but when I looked at the numbers and took a big picture view at everything, it was a regression offensively for him. And I know it was talked about, he struggled with high velocity pitches. He definitely struggled with his discipline at the plate. He's one that they want to be better at finding the gaps, hitting across the field, and being better at just having more composure in his at-bats. And I just feel like Bryson Stott, you're not baby Stott anymore. Like, at this point of your career, we have more expectations for you.
Yeah, it needs to step up.
And I do think a C- is he was knocking on the door for a D+. But again, the
honeymoon period
defensive
was over with Bryson Stott. This
very
was
much
a big
over.
year for him.
We have more expectations for him. So thankfully, the stolen bases and defense helped his grade because offensively, this was not a good season for Bryson Stott.
All right, we got a C and a C-. Tyler, where are you, your beloved Bryson Stott?
Yeah, he disappointed me greatly this year. This was probably the guy that I would have chosen to have. The regression hurt the most for me.
Yeah, same.
Because I've talked very extensively about my appreciation for Bryson Stott. But Renee, you brought it up. The inability to catch up to fastballs this year was detrimental. I'll even take it a step further. You can take out the velocity of the fastballs and just talk fastballs in general. Last year, he hit 304 against fastballs, especially those in the zone. This year, he hit 222. But what concerns me, and maybe this is a little bit hypocritical because we talked about yesterday, the three of us off the air, about Luis Arraez and Steven Kwan and how their bat speed is not translating to poor bats. In fact, their bat control has been absolutely excellent, and they have 2 of the 3 better batting averages across baseball despite the slow bat speed. But Bryson Stott ranked in the 7th percentile of bat speed this year. His average bat speed was only 68 miles an hour, which it didn't work for him. It worked for Luis Arraez. His bat control is enormous. I think he struck out 4 times in the second half of the year. Steven Kwan was hitting 400 through the month of May. It worked for him as well. Bryson Stott, it just didn't work for him this year. His hard hit percentage was down. His barrel rate was down. His exit velo is in the 14th percentile. The one thing with Stott is he doesn't swing and miss a lot. His whiff rates are good. His chase rates are fairly solid. He doesn't strike out a lot. But the bat on ball that was finding soft spots last year, the bat on ball that was line drive, back up the middle, the bat on ball type of stuff that worked well for him last year, and why he hit 280 and why I felt like he was poised to maybe take another jump, just never really materialized this year. I think offensively it was a really big regression year from somebody I expected a kind of similar. And you brought up him being potentially a 5 or a 6-hole hitter, Jamie. To me, he fits best when he's at his best as a 2-hole hitter.
Yeah.
Now, you're not going to do it because you have a lefty in the leadoff spot and a lefty in the 3.
You possibly could
but
if
I
he's
think
on. Yeah.
his archetype type player is a 2-hole hitter, but you can't do that when you're hitting 234 and your OBP is only 295. It was a really rough regression offensive year for Bryson Stott this year. He had a -9 run value on 4-seam fastballs this year. Last year he was at a -2, so he was living with the fastball, because we talked about it his first year. Pitchers were taking him up in the zone. He was obliging. He was not getting good contact on high fastball. The same thing happened this year. The defensive metrics were good. They were excellent last year. This year, they were probably in a good to great range. He's a very, very good defensive second baseman. He's going to be a very, very good defensive second baseman for a very long time. I think that boosts the grade a little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
I think the C- grade is a fair one. I was toying with a D+.
That's where I was.
But I think I'm going to go with a C- for Bryson Stott this year.
I agree with you. I literally was caught. This is like a 70. Like, it's very close if we were being specific. I know in the chat we're seeing some chatter about if Bryson Stott is one of the guys you should look to trade for, rather than maybe someone else like a Bone who's been brought up in the conversation.
One more year.
Yeah, I think, and I know that's something in itself that's a whole other conversation. But the other concern, to your point about thinking he can bounce back, and it was mentioned, I think it was Trevor Rice that said it, is this his ceiling? This is the concern that you get from Bryson Stott. And I know I've been finding myself ever since the season ended of fluke or reality. Like, is this the reality of who Bryson Stott is, or was this maybe just a bad stretch, a bad season, and this is not who he is, and he can continue to make those strides and improve? So, and then PSU Iverson's mentioned that Stott at least has the work ethic and should improve. I know Barbara Carroll's talking about like the curveball machine. So yeah, some interesting things to get into. And Frank Barber
Tyler,
agrees
I'm curious,
C-.
if you sympathize with Bryson Stott about 6 months from now. Now, I know that athletes are not allowed to be human beings and be affected by life and reality, but becoming a new dad is.
Listen,
I'm not giving an excuse.
I'm sure it's part of the challenge. There's no doubt.
Well,
but
then
like,
all
I'm
of
curious
them-
how your perspective will change in 6 months, because it's a whole new world, and like you never sleep the same. It's great, but it's challenging and different. And when you're a new dad, you know, I'm optimistic for his future.
The hard part is there are a lot of new dads not only on this team but across the league. There are so many
the
guys
Phillies
that
very
are
horny
their
and just
families are
cranking out all these
growing,
babies.
and you have that you still have a job to do.
Well,
so
sure.
you have
It's
the
just
means to not only have your wife support you, but nannies and whatever else. And to your point, yes, it's very difficult. I can't speak from experience, either can Tyler yet, but
your life is in upheaval, and you never sleep the same ever again. So he'll be used to it next year, and the dad strength will be there. But let's take a
not
minute.
Carson Wentz syndrome equals new daddy equals regression.
Let's take a minute and tell you about some more friends of ours here. And that is my friends over at Bet365. You can find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Yesterday on the PHLY Bet Show, I gave out the Denver Broncos as the play on Thursday Night Football. Hopefully you followed. I love Texas this weekend over Georgia and the -5. And keep your eyes peeled. I cooked up a little Saquon Barkley PHLY odds boost special for the people this weekend with Saquon's big return up to New York. Bet365 has over 90 million worldwide users. They stream over 780,000 events every year, and they have the best early payout offers across the 4 major sports because they pioneered live in-game betting. They're great at it. And right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 to sign up, deposit $10, place a $5 bet, and boom, $200 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. So make sure you're checking it out. Keep an eye out for our custom PHLY bets and boosts. I even cooked up a little Zamboner Nation, Matvey Michkov, and Flyers line for next Wednesday's national game on TNT. So keep your eyes peeled for those. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, right there, Bet365. You can call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, and while we're taking care of some business, let me tell you about where you can go if you got a leaky pipe. Maybe this time of year you're dealing with electrical issues or plumbing or heating issues. Probably not cooling and air conditioning issues, but if you were, Ace Hardware Home Services is the place you can go with all of the helpful hardware folks. They've got a staff that has experience, decades of experience, that are trusted advisors to be able to help you make those tough decisions for what you need in terms of repairs, materials, installation. And they also simplify things by providing with free estimates on equipment installation and replacement, with the mind of knowing, or the peace of mind knowing, your budget, your opinions, what works best for your house is going to be at the forefront of all decisions that get made. They've got a wide range of residential maintenance, installation, and repair services for your home that include, as I mentioned, plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical, and much more. And so with Ace Hardware Home Services, they also provide emergency services that you can always count on. And they just want to make sure you know that you're going to get trusted service and satisfaction guaranteed from the moment you step foot in their doors, from the moment you check out the website, from the moment you give them a call and reach out. However you're getting in touch with them, they're going to provide you with the customer service, the support, and make sure to help minimize the stress of trying to figure out, I should say, how to make any repairs in your home. So bringing helpful to your home so you can spend much more time on the projects that really matter. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started today on your next project.
This is the PHLY Phillies podcast brought to you by those people, acehardwarehomeservices.com. So make sure you're checking it out and bring the helpful hardware place right to your front door. All right, a couple more grades to get to, and then there was a really interesting part of the beauty of baseball is, like a manager doesn't really matter that much during the course of a regular season. You know, you manage the bullpen, make sure guys, you kind of are just like the father of the clubhouse and make sure everything's cool and vibes are good. Your impact on game-to-game stuff is fairly minimal. And if you do pull the wrong bullpen lever one day, it's like, all right, well, there's 6 more games this week, whatever, we can get that back. Once you get to the postseason, every managerial decision is just like under the world's biggest magnifying glass. And some managers are in impossible situations because if your players don't come through for you, you look like an idiot. But if you lean on a guy that's been one of the best in baseball, I thought last night's Guardians-Yankees game with Clase and Luke Weaver was fascinating stuff. So we're going to talk about that.
You cannot just casually drop this, and now I want to keep the conversation going.
Well, we got to finish these grades up, but we'll get to it because Emmanuel Clase last night, crazy night.
Go to the grades, because
right.
yes, I want to talk about Clase.
Sosa. Now, Edmundo Sosa's next up on the grades. I'm going to give him a B+. When Trey Turner went down for 6 weeks early in the year, Edmundo Sosa really stepped up, so much so that people were like, should he be a full-time player? No, that's silly. He's given you enough of a body of work. He's a perfect infield piece to have on your bench and play twice a week type of situation. I do not want him being a full-time starter. So my B+ is reflective of him being a bench player. Played in 90 games. Oh, Tyler, I was just about to read that. Yeah. 90 games this year, 257, 313, 422 slash line with a 104 OPS plus, 7 dingers, 31 RBIs, 23 extra base hits, 7 stolen bases. Pre-All-Star game, which to me got weighted the heaviest because he became that full-time guy more or less with Turner out. 274, 332, 458. prior to the All-Star game. So I thought that kind of led me to the B+ range. His WAR was a 2.3. I know Tyler loves WAR, which is much higher than I would have thought it to be. Slight improvements from last year, the year prior. His average in OBP and OPS all went up. His slugging and OPS plus were very similar. Very hard to be upset with what Edmundo Sosa gave you in the role he's carved out for this team. I feel comfortable with a B+.
Okay, that's fair. I like that. That's close to my grade.
Oh, boy.
So Edmundo Sosa, for me, I do think that when you look at the month of May and how...
Dave Dewar says I'm too generous, higher than a B. It's a B+. It's not that much higher.
I think for the month of May, when he stepped in place of Trey Turner and in his 72 at-bats, he gave you some really impressive numbers. He was honestly a big reason why the Phillies were still winning games in May, and it was very seamless with injuries because he gave you 17 runs, 22 hits, 4 doubles, 4 triples, and his numbers in May were the best of all his splits for a month out of the season with a 306 average, 375, 597 slugging, and a 972 OPS. And I love the fact that Edmundo Sosa stepped up in that month and then gave you some consistency. You knew whether he was second base, shortstop, wherever he played, he was going to give you the energy, as Rob Thompson talks about. He was going to be out there as someone that is a grinder. I know that's another thing that we talk about this team needing more of. And I know even Steven in the chat, you're mentioning it. I liked what he brings as a true role player, as a true bench piece. And unfortunately, though, what is a little frustrating is I was hoping he could bring some of that in the postseason when he started in place of Alec Boehm, and instead had a couple of errors. Was not good in the postseason. And so for his postseason numbers, which I accidentally had read earlier, to have in his 4 at-bats just 1 hit in the 2 games that he played and 1 run, and then had the 250 batting average. He was great when you needed him, and then he also was not great at times. And I don't expect him to be someone that's an everyday starter. I don't expect him to be an everyday player.
It's like I don't want him playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, so that's why I feel like for me, for Edmundo Sosa as just a bench piece with a capital B, that's what he gets for me.
Right.
I thought he was steady. I thought he was solid, not too flashy, not too much of a game changer, but also someone that didn't kill you.
Tyler, a B plus and a B from us. What do you got?
Yeah, it's an interesting player because Renee, I distinctly remember you and I doing a show after he played Hero one night in maybe May or early June. And the thing we kept going back to was what he's doing right now is exactly what the Phillies need because of the fact that it allows Trey Turner to naturally get back and naturally heal. And he was really, really good in that role from the time Turner got back to the time Turner got injured to the time he got back. The issue that Edmundo Sosa faced as the season progressed and he saw more and more plate appearances, his chase rate went through the roof. He had a 40% chase rate this year. He swung and missed at almost 32% of his pitches. He struck out 24% of his at-bats. His walk rate was low. He's never going to be a high walk guy, but it was a 313 OBP despite the fact that he hit almost 260. You've got a good utility middle infielder. He can play short. He can play play second. They've put him at third a couple of times. I wouldn't continue to do that if I were the Phillies. To me, he is a middle infielder by trade. He's a good base runner. His sprint speed was in the 92nd percentile.
Is he really?
I think overall, it was a really good month plus when he was filling in for Trey Turner. He gave a boost, exactly what they needed. Everything outside of that was probably pretty prototypical of a bench player. To me, he was a slightly above average player for a bulk of the year, or was slightly above average for the entirety of the year, was really good that stretch, had some really ugly pockets as well.
Sure.
I'm going to go C+ for Edmundo Sosa. There was nothing to me outside of that month pocket where I was like, this guy is a
but that's
super
why
utility piece.
I weighted him higher because I thought that 6-week stretch when Trey was down,
is fair.
which was the most important part.
I think the totality of the season, he was slightly above average.
Sure.
It was a 104 OPS, which basically says he's just above an average hitter across the OPS line.
Yeah.
It was a fine year from a guy that you needed a fine year from. I think he gave you exactly what you expected over the course of he had 249 at bats.
All right.
C+ for me.
I like it.
I like it. Let's move on to Rafael Marchán. These guys are all kind of like bench players, so let's buzz through them and talk some other stuff. Rafael Marchán, B+. He's not Garrett Stubbs. Renee, the floor is yours. No, but seriously, it's such a small sample size. He's a hard guy to grade. What was it, 54 at bats or something like that?
Yeah, so
he looks better than Garrett Stubbs, so I'm giving him a B+ off of mostly just vibes alone.
Okay. Well, first of all, K-Red, thanks for the compliments on my sweater.
Your cardigan is fire.
It is sweater season. It's so warm and so comfortable. Marchán, let's look at his numbers really quickly, though.
It's going to be warm again, though. This whole week's going to be in the 70s.
Well, that's why I have short sleeves on underneath,
Nice.
so it's a versatile fit. And Rafael is a versatile fit for the Phillies as a catcher. In his 17 games played, he had a split of 294, 345, 549 with a 147 OPS plus.
Stud.
Hit 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 7 extra base hits, 0 stolen bags, and had a 1.87 pop time on his throws to second base. Rafael Marchán, a great backup catcher for the Phillies as an option moving forward, but unfortunately cannot stay healthy. I gave him a B. I feel like, to me, he's got to figure out, when you look at his career, his injury history has been such a concern, and it was the same issue this season. He is a switch hitter. He does give you offense. He does have, as we talked about, the pop time. He's got a lot of pieces as a true backup for what you're looking for out of a guy that doesn't have to play every day as a catcher, but he's got to find a way to stay healthy. And it was tremendous to see his numbers from AAA to the big leagues, how much better he was in the big leagues. But can you be better every day? So until you can be every day as a back, and by every day I mean in your role, consistent, available when needed, he was not that. Even if he had stayed up, he was still injured, and regardless, once he got moved down. So Rafael, Marchán, stay healthy, and you'd be higher than B, but that's all you've got.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, I think he's your backup catcher next year. Tyler, Rafael, Marchán, small sample size. What'd you make of it?
He gets an I for me for incomplete. It's a very small sample size, but I agree with you.
I didn't know we could give out incompletes. That's on the table. You coward.
Listen, he is going to be. Let me rephrase that. Dear Lord, he should be your backup catcher
stay
next
healthy,
year.
please.
Under the assumption that he's healthy. Good, like we talked about, it was only 7 throws. I willfully neglected to put that in there, but the pop time is good from him. He's a okay defensive catcher. Anything really is going to be a step down from JT Realmuto for the most part. But the average was there across the 55 plate appearances. He hit almost 300. The OBP was solid. A little bit of pop in the bat. Switch hitter, which is crazy for a lot of guys these days, but for a catcher, provides you a little bit of flexibility as a switch hitter. It's an incomplete grade, but if you're asking me to grade his 51 at bats, a B is pretty fair. I thought he was pretty good, and he showed to me that he is your backup catcher next year under the assumption of health.
Yeah. All right. It is a very interesting switch hit. Getting a switch hitter, if you get Santander and him, both 2 switch hitters in a lineup next year, that'd be a lot of fun. All right. The last grade for today, and if you missed it earlier, we're going to kind of split this up by like 5 or 6 guys a day, and then we're going to go infield, outfield, starting pitching, bullpen. Last one for today is kind of super utility man, Kody Clemens. Now, he played a lot of firsts primarily with Bryce Harper's injury, and then Alec Bohm was hurt. He kind of plays some outfield. You could put him at third in emergency situations. 43 games played in 2024, 219, 258, 447 slash. OPS plus 94, so slightly below. 5 home runs, 18 RBIs, 15 extra base hits, 0 stolen bases. He is out of minor league options next year, so that's an interesting thing. If I had to gamble, I would think right now he's on the opening day roster next year. Had a really nice spring training this year. We'll probably have to back it up in Clearwater next year to earn that spot. Numbers, when you look at them, like when I wrote down my grade, I wrote down A. And then I looked at the numbers and I was like, well, it's probably slightly below what I thought. But his clutchness seemed to be big this year. Came up in a couple big hit situations, won you a game. I believe he had 1, if not 2, walk-off hits. So Kody Clemens, I'm giving an A to. And that's on the scale of like, I don't really expect much. If you can come up and be clutch in that, very infrequent at-bat situation, I think you're serving your role. So I'm giving Kody an A, although the numbers probably don't deserve that. He's more of like a vibes type of grade than anything else.
So Kody Clemens is a guy that I was very encouraged by this season with what he did. I feel like, and as I know Dave Dombrowski mentioned, he's a big league player. He's a guy that is a threat to get a hit, that he always feels a threat to get a hit. I think for Kody Clemens in his role, especially as a pinch hitter, he steps up in those moments you need him, and he literally helped the Phillies win games this season. Of the Phillies bench players with 40-plus at-bats, he had the highest OPS. And also, when you look at the production of him, of his RBIs, of his home runs, especially in big moments, that's exactly what we expect from you as a guy that is a bench piece that can be called upon. And when you're being called upon as a pinch hitter, it's in major moments. It's in game-changing moments. And in the postseason, he did something that very few Phillies can say they did. He got an RBI. He helped them score a run. He had 2 hits in his 5 at-bats in the postseason with a .400 batting average. And when you think about the timing of when those happened, Kody Clemens, clutch is as I want to call him. And I give him an A-. I think Kody Clemens was solid. I think he was one of the most consistent Phillies.
I could be talked into an A-. You might have swayed me.
I think he was, for his role, for his opportunity of helping this team win games, he was consistent. He was there when you needed him. He stepped up when needed, I should say. A- for me.
Dave
for
Dewar
Kody
said,
Clemens.
I'm like the Oprah of giving out good grades. like she does with cars. It says, "I wish you were my high school teacher." Yeah, I'm probably a.
I feel like they called you that last year too. You're consistent. You're very
fairly
consistent with your grading.
because look, a lot of people, there's recency bias with how you view this stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like, so you have a bad taste in your mouth at the end of the year. I'm trying to judge it on the whole body of work, not by the brutal
to mention,
finale.
we're not grading them comparing to each other. Like you're not comparing Kody Clemens to a Bryce Harper, to a Bryson Stott. It's based off of their expectation and did they perform in their role to help this team.
Yeah, all I can grade Kody
did.
Clemens on is a backup kind of super utility guy that's going to get, possibly 100 at-bats a year.
Yeah.
So, Tyler, you heard ours. Where do you fall on the Rocket Sun?
Yeah,
Kody?
he's a serviceable bench piece for a team that needs a left-handed bench bat in a pretty bad way. The numbers probably he got a little bit as he got a little more overexposure. The numbers creeped down a little bit. Chase rate was not great, 33.5% this year. Struck out in about 25% of his at bats. He also has a home run in 5 of his 25 hits this season. He did provide some very clutch moments for this team, which I think is an important factor. You can't just discredit it. I think over the course of an entire season, because like you guys said, I think the guess is he's probably on the Major League roster to open up the season, assuming something crazy doesn't happen, because he is out of minor league options. So you're looking at a guy who is going to be your left-handed bench piece. Probably pair him with Weston Wilson would be my guess as your lefty-righties off the bench.
Sounds about right.
For your super utility type of guys. It was a fine season. I think the big moments were critical big moments for this team. I think he provided a spark when you needed it most. Statistically speaking, he was fine. I think probably a C+ is fair for Kody Clemens. I think that, tangibly, Edmundo Sosa provided you more. Maybe spark-wise, Kody Clemens provided you more. If you balance the two out, I think that Clemens is a fine bench piece for this team that probably will go searching for one more veteran type bench piece in the offseason. I think a C+ B- range is fair for Kody Clemens.
All right. Well, those are our
Tyler's
grades.
the strict one on Kody Clemens.
I know. Well, those are our grades for day one. We've got more grades coming your way throughout the course of the next week and some change as we're talking offseason. But there's some playoff baseball to talk about after this quick break, because I first want to take this moment to tell you about some of our friends. And those are our friends over at Shady Rays, because Shady Rays allows you to always get ready for the season ahead with their quality shades built to last. And over at Shady Rays, they give you premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. We love being able to shop and purchase items that have high quality without having to have that high price tag. And as an independent sunglasses company, they offer a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades are durable. They're sleek frames. They have all different options for you, hundreds of options to choose from to match whatever style, looks, colors you're looking to pair with. And in addition to all those hundreds of options, Shady Rays also provide you the support knowing if you want to exchange them, if you do break them, if you do lose them. They have some great systems in place for replacing your sunglasses. So with Shady Rays, you don't have to worry about these sunglasses I had got lost and I don't know what to do. Oh, I know what you can do. You can, of course, reach out to Shady Rays because they have their return worry-free program in place to allow you to make sure that you understand there's no risk when you shop and there's no risk when you're rocking your Shady Rays, because their team will always have your back with personal and fast support. So exclusively for our listeners today, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. You can head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off your polarized sunglasses. Try them for yourself. The shades that are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Shady Rays.
And let me tell you a little bit about what we got going on here at PHLY. You can support us here at PHLY and get access to the best writers in the city. From Les Bowen, Zach Berman, Bo Wolf, and Fran Duffy on the Eagles, and Kyle Neubeck and Derek Bodner, and even Rich Hoffman sometimes on the Sixers and Phillies, and then Flyers. I mean, does it get better than Charlie O'Connell? And of course, we got Jim Salisbury, Charlie O'Connor. See, I can't even pronounce people's names I know. Friends of mine. So this is not unique to Major League Baseball players. Charlie O'Connell. You can read his.
O'Connor.
I'm aware. I'm making fun of myself again. But Charlie O'Connor, of course, we got Jim Salisbury and Hannah Kaiser and Rich contributing to the Phillies. We got a ton of great stuff going on. Plus, you get 20% off of events. You get a free piece of merch.
You get access to all those. And the Discord I have too much fun with in our community here at PHLY. So you can head to allphly.com and consider being a diehard with us. And check out our events calendar. It'll keep you up to date on what we got going on. And this Sunday, Delco, we're going to be out inside you in media on State Street Pub. Yes, Tyler, we're going to be inside Delco on Sunday for the Eagles pregame show. Me, Rich Hoffman, and Roy Burton will be there. And then Fran, Bo, and Vinny will be holding it down here in the halftime and postgame show.
What is wrong with you?
We're going to be inside Delco on Sunday.
Inside you.
Inside you, Delco. Spot the lie.
What's wrong with you?
I will enter Delco on Sunday. Sunday. Okay. A couple minutes here before we get out of here. It's Friday, Renee. It's time to get weird. Last night, I thought was
you have wine on a Thursday.
Yeah. Last night was a fascinating baseball decision by the Cleveland Guardians. That game was wild. And I have to tell you guys, I missed the walk-off win by Cleveland because Hulu has live TV crapped out on me and half the country, and we missed it. And you can ask my wife, I was ready to rip my TV off the wall and smash it over.
For?
Huh?
What are you paying for if you don't even get to see big moments like that?
I know. My mother-in-law was on the phone, and like I was freaking out so much that Addie was like showing me to her, and she's like, "Look at him." It's like when you're spotting like a
wild animal,
like
in
you're on
nature.
safari, and you're like, "Look at him. He's attacking the hyena. He might pounce
the wild Jamie in his
and
natural
I'm like,
habitat."
And I'm like trying both remotes and getting the laptop on because it was a great game, and it crapped out at the worst time. So I was really pissed. Okay. But the managerial decision, Gaddis starts the inning for the Guardians at the bottom of the order, top of the order. And then you get to the decision, Emmanuel Clase, the best closer in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
You have Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton coming up. Now, Clase during the regular season came into a situation with runners on the base. Do you want to guess how many times? That's zero.
I saw this stat.
This is not a spot the Guardians had used him in, have shown a willingness to do. But we've had this conversation many times. New age baseball, and Tyler's a big believer in it. The close isn't necessarily the most important outs. Sometimes your most important outs are getting Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton out in the eighth inning because, you know, when you have a fearsome 4 bullpen, you go, all right, well, I want to use steel on steel here. And that's Clase versus Judge. You know, we have a great bullpen. They can face the bottom of the order in the 9th. I feel more comfortable with that. Now, the new school in me completely agrees with what the Guardians did. The old school in me was like, well, if it's a situation he's never been in before with runners on the base and nobody out, like, do you really go to him there? So I completely see both sides of it. I would have probably, if I was Cleveland and I had watched Emmanuel Clase be Superman all year long and be the best closer in baseball, I probably would have sent him out there to face Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton in the heart of the Yankees order. That being said, it blew up in their face. He couldn't get outs. Those 2 home runs were out of 8 of 30 parks and 9 of 30 parks. Very Cleveland-friendly home runs. I would have done what Cleveland did. Now, luckily, they were able to come back and get the walk-off, and it didn't matter. But I thought that was a fascinating decision. What would you have done in that moment?
Exactly what the Guardians did.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, this was Clase's first blown save in 4 postseason chances going back to 2022. And he allowed multiple home runs in a game for the first time in his career of any game.
That's wild.
Regular season, postseason, doesn't matter. So when you have Aaron Judge, you have Giancarlo Stanton, who's actually been one of the best offensive pieces. I mean,
he's having a good postseason.
We know who he is, by no surprise. For the Yankees, you have to go to your big time reliever. You have to go to in that moment, they made the correct decision, but this is also why it's a team sport. Because in this situation, Clase did get hit. He didn't blow the save, but this is why you have your team to what good teams do.
the fearsome
Your
four. You're like,
offense rallies around you and still finds a
How
way to
about
come
that?
away with the win. So for Big Christmas, as they call him,
what a great nickname.
great. See, that's a good nickname.
Noel.
That's a great
that was
nickname.
you want to talk
Noel
about a
was
piss
on my
missile.
fantasy team for a while. He's been a
Nobody cares.
great piece.
But that
for
was
the
a piss missile. He bombed that thing into left field.
Insane. So as you talk about on the other side, this is why you have your offense that's supposed to help your pitchers out. Phillies, take notes. Emmanuel Clase, best reliever in the game, gets hit. History for the worst. And then you turn around, and up next, you have Noel, as you mentioned, who bombs one out with the game-tying 2-run homer. And then you have...
I didn't see it because Hulu crapped the bed.
Oh, no. It was beautiful.
I bet. I saw people talking about it.
This is your season. This is your season. You're down 2-0. If you go down 3-0, that's a wrap. So it's an elimination moment, must-win moment. And they stepped up, and they got hits. And then on top of that, Fry... Really quickly,
I didn't
David
see
Fry
any of this. I
made
don't know what happened.
So I'll tell you about it.
I can only read
David
about it.
Fry made some history with the walk-off because it was the first time in Major League Baseball history that one player had a 2-out, 2-strike, go-ahead home run in the 7th inning or later twice in their postseason career, because Fry did this earlier this playoff period as well. Big Christmas is stepping up. Noel stepped up. The offense came through to support Emmanuel
Weaver,
Clase,
one of the big storylines, kind of implodes there on the Yankees. Tyler, you are the Cleveland manager. Vote. Yeah, whatever. Vote. What are you doing there?
All right, stop. You got it. You got it. Stop right there. Not another word.
Are you sending Emmanuel Clase, the best reliever in the game, out to face Aaron Judge?
Yeah, I am. I've you guys know how staunch I am about this. The most important out is the
and
next.
thank you to our diehards that tuned in. Continue, Tyler.
Yeah, the most important out is the next one, and especially in a postseason game. Like, he's not pitched particularly well this postseason. I know he had some struggles against Detroit, but you have to turn to your high leverage, high velocity, high stuff guy in a situation that requires you to get their best hitter out. So yes, I think in this situation, I do just go to my best pitcher in this spot. If it blows up in my face, I have to take accountability for it.
That's where it's an impossible situation for a manager, because I think his decision was sound, and the best closer in baseball let him down, and that's a decision I can live with.
First of all, it was must-see baseball for everybody that's TVs did not shut off on that.
That must be cool.
But also,
What's that like?
this is why, to be honest, so I'm going to take a step back. Did it blow up in his face? No. They won the game. It worked. Now, how it worked is not what you expected. You didn't think Emmanuel Clase was going to give up home runs, but
if it's not for
worked.
the big Noel.
So I think, to be honest, we can flip this. And on the other side of it, it's the Guardians who saw the best reliever in baseball, their best reliever, get hit and actually stepped up to support him. And they had his back, and they won the game
that must be
for
cool.
him. That's a very cool thing teams do.
Wow. Okay. As we're getting out of here, Shohei Ohtani, not human. The Mets have 31 walks, the Dodgers have 31 walks against the Mets in this series. Max Muncy set an MLB postseason record by reaching base safely in 11 or 12 straight appearances. I think there's 7 or 8 walks in there, 2 or 3 singles and a home run. That series is over. Thank you, Los Angeles.
8 walks, 2 home runs, 2 singles in his 12 consecutive times up to plate.
Crazy.
Set that all-time record.
And again,
for
not a star.
A single postseason, and he matched the all-time mark if you want to include a stretch that span multiple postseasons. That's Elias Sports Bureau that put that out there. And then he also matched Mr. October himself, Mr. Reggie Jackson, who reached in 12 straight postseason plate appearances for the Yankees back in 78. And so for Max Muncy, who's not Mookie Betts, not Shohei Ohtani, not even Freddie Freeman, who's dealing with injuries
as well.
He's performing, and he's stepping up. Where is the Max? Who is the Max
Kiki
Muncy
Hernandez
of?
and
Who's
Max
the Max Muncy of the
Muncy?
Phillies?
Yeah,
Who's
nobody.
the Kike Hernandez of the Phillies?
Nobody.
And what pissed me off the most about that Dodgers 10-2 win, as now they've won 9-0, 8-0, and 10-2, is it would have been a great series if it was Phillies pre-All-Star break versus the Dodgers in the NLCS.
Phillies own the Dodgers this year.
Yeah.
All right, as we're getting out of here, a couple cool things I saw on Twitter. We'll get more into the MLB ratings next year, but they're on the big upswing there.
Ooh, yeah.
But you know what's wild? Japan has bigger ratings than the USA for the Dodgers series. In Japan, the Dodgers games are averaging 12 million viewers. 12 million viewers watch Game 5 versus San Diego in Japan. That is absolutely wild. And one other cool thing that happened.
Darvish versus Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Yeah, and of course
Shohei Ohtani, of course.
yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
12
hey,
million
the game is growing.
It's awesome. And then yesterday, something really cool. Just wanted to throw out here to wish everybody a happy baseball weekend. The 7 best players in baseball this decade all played yesterday.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper missed a lot of time for injury, or I didn't accumulate his last 4 years, but he'd probably be right behind.
Sure.
So yesterday, Shohei Ohtani, since 2020, number 1 WAR player in baseball, 35. Aaron Judge, number 2 at 33. Juan Soto tied with Jose Ramirez at number 3 at a 27 WAR over the last 4 years. Freddie Freeman, number 5 at 26 WAR, and then tied at number 6, Francisco Lindor and Mookie Betts. Pretty cool.
Great players.
Good players
What a
carry
list.
teams. Bryce Harper's probably just outside that list looking in.
Also outside, not playing, looking in.
Yeah, not playing baseball.
there's
That's
that
cool.
But the
Thank
ratings
you.
are higher, which is great to see because
Yes.
it just shows baseball is taking major strides. So we love to see the growth of the numbers, like 15% increase that the wild card round alone had.
Yeah,
So
pretty wild
yay.
stuff. That's going to do it for us here today at PHLY Phillies. To everybody in the chat hanging out, appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great weekend. We might have at least one World Series finalist by
Come on,
Monday's
Dodgers.
show. But back at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
on Monday. And thanks everybody for hanging out. Have a great weekend. See you later.
We all silly like the